Owen Jones suggests that in order to win the next election, Labour has to appeal to pensioners. Why isn't Labour surging? The 30th of November. He reminds us of the government's chaotic Brexit process, yet fails to consider that Labour's own Brexit ambiguities have created a serious problem. In the big cities, Labour failed to mention Brexit and received massive majorities in the small towns where Labour emphasised its pro-Brexit credentials. Their vote barely increased. The vast majority of Labour voters do not want Brexit, yet Labour appears to take them for granted. On 41% of the vote, it is difficult to see where a Labour surge will come from. If Labour is serious about defeating the Tories, it should be seeking alliances with others on the centre-left, Greens, Lib Dems, SNP and Plaid Cymru, to defeat Brexit. One more push on pensioners' issues will not do it. David MelvinAshtonunderLyne. Greater Manchester. Owen Jones rightly commends Labour's voter registration drive before the last election and suggests a relentless focus on pensioners' issues ahead of the next one whenever it comes. Correct, but why no mention of electoral reform? The Tories lost overall control of Parliament last June thanks to the willingness of progressives across the political spectrum to vote tactically for progressive candidates. They did this in despair at the unfairness of the current electoral system, and in the national interest. Labour's dream of overall control only reinforces the undemocratic first-past-the-post electoral system. Opinion polls show that electoral reform is popular policy, and campaigning on this issue will defeat the Tories. Caroline Rowe, Oxford. Labour does not have to win over the majority of the pensioner vote, only a sufficient proportion to win in the Tory marginals. While it may be difficult to outbid the Tories in their electoral bribes to this group, there are other ways of winning their vote. While the majority of pensioners dislike modernity, which they associate with Labour, there are sufficient among them who could be persuaded to switch, if the party could only offer policies that overcame their distaste for the party. A bidding war with the Tories for the pensioner vote would be futile, but policies aiming at substantially improving the lot of the young could achieve this. The vast majority of pensioners have children and grandchildren about whose future they are concerned. Labour can go where the Tories dare not follow, giving employment protection to those in the gig economy and improving the lot of the private rental tenant. Many of us pensioners are quite altruistic in our thinking, and Labour is the party best positioned to appeal to our altruism. Derek Joder leads. Why isn't Labour further ahead in the polls? The brutal reply is for the want of a rational economic policy. Why does Labour think that taxing a failing Tory economy is a solution for anything? The hole in Britain's economy is our systemic trade deficit. We continue to sell our land, property, infrastructure and services to foreign interests, to pay for our imports. Continue. EC8 Tory failings is not a sustainable economic or social policy. Martin London Henlon, Denbighshire. Owen Jones might start to answer the question by asking, what has the party offered the disillusioned Leave voters in the North and Midlands? In its 2017 manifesto, Labour pledged to examine every devolution alternative, including federalism, which offered a fairer share of power and resources to all regions. Since then, silence and no policies proposal to address the hideous regional imbalances in this country. Report after report reiterates the fact that we are a regionally divided nation, but so far the Labour leadership has done nothing to suggest that would change if elected. As a result, the partial, incoherent and underfunded strategies of this government, led by the Surrey-based Transport Secretary, go without serious challenge. Why would anyone in the neglected areas of the English regions have surged towards the Labour Party? Richard Clarke. Clearly John McDonnell is finding it difficult to get his message across. Borrowing to invest is not burning money. The 27th of November. As he and his regime condemn New Labour to obscurity, the tendency is to view his project in the same light as the previous but one, old Labour, government, the one of monopoly, state provision, strikes and inflation. If he lifted the scales from his eyes, he could perhaps remind us of a more recent Labour government, where public spending rose from £449 billion in 19967 to £725 billion in 200910, a rise of 60%, which was mainly invested in new schools, hospitals and state nurseries. Despite that investment, GDP rose from 1,138 meters to 1,530 meters, a rise of 30%. As a result, public spending as A proportion of GDP only rose by 7.9%. McDonnell lacks plausibility, he is tainted with his Marxist past and he's not a very good communicator until he illustrates his policies with clear evidence-based statistical analysis. He will always lose the argument on investment. Mark Dudek, London. Spending priorities shift in favor of low-income households and the public sector and away from outsourcers and defense companies. Report 1 December. Can we ask Morgan Stanley to write the Labour Party manifesto, please? Rachel Meredith York. Join the debate. Email guardian.letters@theguardian.com. Read more Guardian letters. Click here to visit gu.com letters.